back to the Sad Dad Games podcast. I'm Shan.
I'm Eric.
I'm Tucker.
And I'm Lundy.
Today we'll be talking about Spider-Man, the Marvel Spider-Man, and but before we get into that, please like, comment, subscribe, and follow us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and follow Eric's Indie Corners on Thursdays. All right, so today we're going to be digging into Martin Lee's story arc and MJ wanting to form a partnership with Spider-Man. I have some thoughts, but let's just dig in as we go. Right? All right, so we start this section with Peter Parker is over at MJ's house having dinner, and they're having curry, right? This is where they settled after like wanting to kind of get together and not knowing what the relationship is yet.
Yeah, I think they're still kind of trying to figure things out. And then MJ's like, Peter offers to come over and make dinner, and MJ's like, yeah, come over and we'll have dinner together. And Peter's like, yes, like he's got an in, and so he's very excited to go hang out with MJ.
Now, it is my opinion that MJ has decided to allow the more personable situation to happen of being at her house because she wants to, in my opinion, sort of manipulate him into this segue, which is to form a partnership. Because previously in the relationship, she thought she was being treated like a kid, and now she wants to be treated as an equal, even though she doesn't have superpowers, and that is dangerous, right?
Yeah, I've always thought that was, I get not wanting to be treated like a kid, but MJ is actively, throughout the course of this game, putting herself into...
She's like a toddler with a metal fork in a room full of open doors.
In a room, and MJ's like, stop treating me like a kid. And Pete's like, are you sure? That's a great analogy. I feel like MJ in this game in particular is just like, she keeps like intentionally running into these situations that are just like, you could die. Not even like as like a maybe you could die. It's like, you'll probably die if Peter doesn't show up. Like, maybe just like exercise a little caution, like
she's so reckless. And,
a little bit. Yeah.
It's just, I ended up all the way siding with Peter on this because obviously I believe a relationship should, have elements of egalitarianism, like, give and take, but like he has superpowers and she does not. They should not be in the same situations. She should not be near people with guns.
When it comes to physical danger, I think that Peter has the moral high ground in being like, maybe don't be in as much physical danger as I am in. Yeah. But I do also understand MJ's point of view of like, I don't want to be treated like a child. I want to like be a partner with you, which would probably be a very difficult aspect of like being in a relationship with Spider-Man. Because it's like in a relationship, you want to be treated as a partner and you want to be treated as an equal. But there's this part of Peter that like MJ just can't be treated physically on the same level as Peter, because Peter can put himself in these incredibly physically dangerous situations and be okay. And MJ can't match that level. And so I'm sure that that's frustrating for her. So even though her feelings are very justified, it's like Peter's feelings are also very justified, where it's like, well, but of course I want to keep you safe. And of course you shouldn't be in this dangerous situation.
Yeah. Is she like envious that he gets to live this life of like grandeur or have meaning, and she's trying to find that for herself?
I don't read it as envy of that particular aspect. I think that she just wants to be treated like an equal. But in this scenario, that's just much more difficult to be treated like an equal in all aspects because Peter has this other persona.
Well, I think MJ, she has this kind of intrinsic curiosity, search for the truth. I want to get to the bottom of things. And I think that's what makes her a good complement to Peter Parker and Spider-Man, is she's this journalistic aspect of it. And he's kind of so if you want to put it like, she's kind of like the brain of things, and then he's the muscle in a very loose analogy, where I think I think Spider-Man has a lot of brains as well, obviously.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was gonna say Peter.
but
they have very different spheres of intelligence. Peter is very scientifically minded, and like you were saying, Tucker, MJ is really journalistic and is good at like finding information where other people might struggle to find information. And so she's deductive.
And I think that that journalistic side, she wants to get to the bottom of a lot of things. She has to be in the same situations as Peter does. And so Peter, he has superpowers. He can defend himself. But she, I mean, as a mere mortal in these situations, I don't think it's anything outside of what most journalistic-minded people would put themselves in. You know, you have wartime reporters that are out in the field in these very dangerous situations. I think in contrast with Peter, it's a lot more, it's pretty stark, but to MJ's defense here, I think she's in situations that is not as uncommon as before, but I think that personal relationship with Peter, it makes it feel a whole lot more, I guess, urgent and ups the danger level because MJ's there. You care about MJ. If it was, JJJ, you wouldn't really, it wouldn't be the same type of feelings.
Or even just a random citizen, right?
Yeah.
I think that, anytime MJ is involved in a situation, as it heightens the stakes for the player. And so from a gameplay perspective, from a story perspective, it makes a lot of sense to have MJ be in danger a lot because we're controlling Spider-Man most of the time. And so when MJ's in danger, it makes us feel tense and anxious and like, oh, we've got to make sure that this goes right and that she's okay. She has the things that she needs. And, and we'll see in a later mission, one of the parts of the MJ mission that I actually liked better than any other parts, but that's in one of the later ones. So where you kind of get to work together with Spider-Man. But anytime MJ is around, it just heightens the stakes.
Yeah. I wanted to point out, though, that it's not necessarily exactly like wartime reporters because there are standards by which people will not shoot at reporters that the demons won't abide by.
Let's say being a reporter with close ties to Spider-Man in Marvel's New York is probably the same amount of dangerous as being a wartime reporter. Like it's about the same thing. Like, cause everyone's getting shot up every day in Marvel's New York all the time. Everyone's in mortal peril. Like,
yeah, they're protected by the Geneva Conventions, whereas
I'm gonna go on a limb here. Most terrorist organizations are not so concerned with the Geneva Convention.
You don't know.
What I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Seem to know a lot about terrorist organizations, Tucker. Yeah.
Oh, you're saying internationally. Well, then why don't you hear about journalists being shot at
or kidnapped and having to be
they're definitely
situation.
Kidnapped, but they're not killed.
Yeah, you hear that quite a bit.
To Eric's point about Marvel's New York, have you seen there's a new ad around the new Captain America movie for Tide? Have any of you guys seen that? Like,
no,
Tide,
I haven't.
It shows part of like the Red Hulk fight, and he like throws a bus, and it like cuts to a bus stop where there's like a bunch of people waiting for the bus, and it like puts a bunch of dirt all over him, and some of them are like, "Oh man," and they're like, "Well, and." They make like some jokes about it, and somebody's like, "Are we just stuck like this?" And they're like, "Oh no, we use Tide," like as if like they're this is just another everyday occurrence.
Yeah, it's the fix all solution. All of the damages that are done in Marvel's New York, you rub some Tide on it, and it's boom, everything's fine. Yeah,
Everybody's carrying around 10 Tide pens all the time.
Yeah, just looking for that Tide sponsorship. That's all we're doing right now. Yeah.
This episode
they have dispensers for them in the bathrooms. In this universe, that's what they're dispensing.
This episode brought to you by Tide. You can for $5.99 at Walmart. That's not $5.99, but
yeah. All right. So anyway, so she talks about a stealth mission that she had where she broke into Tombstone's garage, and you find out that he had been constructing an armored vehicle for a Mr. Negative, and that's about the end.
Who could that be?
It's not super important.
I do really like, as a huge Spider-Man fan, as someone who watched the 90s cartoon. The first time I did this mission, I was very excited when toss the guy through the glass and it looks up at him and his skin is like super pale white and it looks kind of like stone, and I was like, oh, it's Tombstone, because I remember him from so it's always fun to have little I think Insomniac really loves the Spider-Man character, and so pulling up some of these D-list villains that like hardcore Spidey fans will recognize, you get a little bit of that here and there in these Spider-Man games. I always think that's fun. So Tombstone, yay hooray!
Mm-hmm. And he has like those teeth. Like, what's up with that? Is there any like canon to that? He just like decided to grind them down with a file.
I am not familiar enough with the Tombstone character to know if there's anything about his teeth. I'm trying to remember in the comic, or not in the comics, in the cartoon. I think he has sharp teeth. Do you remember Lundy? Does he have sharp teeth? Lundy just took a bite of pizza, and I asked him a question. You can't see him right now, but he's sitting there with a mouth. I don't know.
1, 2, 3, ask Lundy a question.
I genuinely don't remember if he does have the file.
I'll go here. Let me look it up. You guys keep talking for a second. I'll look it up.
Super not important.
No, it's important. I'm going to Google
neither is
it.
Tombstone.
Yeah.
Whoa.
On the hunt for sponsorships, Lundy, where did you get your pizza from?
It's a little local joint that's pretty close to me. They do New York style pizza, but it's Supremo Pizza. So, they're located in Midvale, Utah. This is not, paid endorsement or anything like that. This is just me being a fan.
Not yet, at least.
And
Not yet. Just you wait. We're going to get those sweet sponsorship deals.
I tell you what, like if they delivered me a free pizza every time we did this just for like shouting them out, I would sign up for life. Like
nobody's going to pay us for a long, long time. Let's just get that out of the way.
You don't know. So I just Googled it. It says that Tombstone files his teeth down to be intimidating. And I checked. He does have
correct.
it in the old cartoon. He has the shark teeth as well. So
that was just me riffing, but it turns out it's correct. That's amazing.
yeah. Well,
I mean, how else do you get teeth like that?
I mean, you
He can just
chew
garble
on
up
spike-shaped
any steak.
things.
Just imagine he popped out of his mom's uterus and then just like bit down on his umbilical cord and he's like, I'm Tombstone, bitch.
Because all kids born with all their teeth, so yeah, that totally makes sense.
Yeah, and full ability to speak. It was a bloody affair, but anyway. So, all right. So she proposes the partnership. He obviously doesn't want it, and let's see. I just feel like
he does give her a taser though. He says like,
right.
I don't want you to go in dangerous situations, but I know since you're going to do it anyway, here's or not a taser,
alert, like a little
alert distractor thingies, like a thing where she can throw and it makes a noise. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm Spider-Man. I can create all these cool gadgets. Here's this fun little thing I found out.
Yeah.
You can take
if you throw it over here, it'll beep. Yeah.
No, this reminds me of the other guys when Michael Keaton's character, he gives them a rape whistle and he says, use this and somebody with an actual gun will come and save you. Oh man. All right, so after this you leave and you go to the save Standish at the Oscorp building. No wait, I'm getting
It's
things
not the
mixed up.
Oscorp building.
It's not the Oscorp.
So
it's just a different
Standish is
building.
it's in, I think it's his office, but it looks kind of like an art gallery. So I'm a little unsure of the setting, but I do like this setting a lot because when you get inside, the whole wall is like these
very fancy,
big glass, big glass windows. And so it's just fun to be inside of an area and still be able to look out the window and see the whole like city rendered. I don't know why, but there's just something that's really fun about that in video games where it's like you can see the whole city, but you're in an interior. Just like it makes it feel really grounded in that world.
Yeah, this made me really want to, like, when I went to New York, I had to get an Airbnb on the outskirts of Brooklyn and then take the metro into New York. And this makes me want to like do a first class trip to New York and get not a penthouse, like still can't afford that, right? But like get something where you can like see New York from like a skyscraper from your hotel room every night in the city.
Cool.
It would be gorgeous.
It's expensive. Liz and I are planning a trip to New York, and it's like we're looking at staying in Queens because it's like $600 or more cheaper a night. It's like so much cheaper to stay just out of the city. And like,
is it because that's where Peter Parker's from?
Maybe, yeah. Well, that's why she.
House.
So we were Liz's brother and his wife used to live in New York, and so they were giving us all the tips, and they're like, stay in Queens, and they like sent us a bunch of links, and we're like, yeah, it's way cheaper to stay in Queens. But as soon as Liz was like, we could stay in Queens, I was like, oh, that's where Spider-Man lives. Like,
So it's not that.
yeah. So it's a little bit of both. It's cheaper, and also I want to stay where Spider-Man stayed. I'm going to find his childhood home, and that's where we'll stay.
I just imagine you going to New York and be like, huh, this is Hell's Kitchen. This is where Daredevil's at.
Spider-Man
This is
beat up
where
a
he
thing
feels
over
better.
there. Daredevil stopped a crime over there. Kingpin lives over here.
It's just going to be
It's
a
that
sightseeing
and-
mission of that.
It's just Spider-Man things and a friend's walking tour. That's all we're going to do while we're there.
I think in Brooklyn there used to be a Captain America statue that just said, I'm just a kid from Brooklyn. It was like a temporary display, but
cool.
like they had him holding up the shield and stuff, and so I would tell
I
you to
love
go
that.
look for that, but I'm pretty sure it's not there anymore.
Let's see. I think Marvel Comics HQ is centered in New York, isn't it? I might be wrong, but I'll Google it. As soon as I said that out loud, I immediately regretted it because I don't know if it's true. Strike. It's not on the internet. I didn't say it. Somebody else. Someone else talk now.
Oh, no. You have to swim in this shame and embarrassment.
I did it wrong. I said the wrong thing, unless it's right, and then good for me.
Yeah. All right. Well, at this fancy building, you go to save Standish from the demons, and he's the CFO of Oscorp, and they want to know the financials of Demon's Breath, but he doesn't know what Demon's Breath is. He just has the financials on it because Norman is keeping everything under lock and key, and they get a name. It's the doctor, right? Or no, it's yeah. They get Delaney's name.
Isaac Delaney. Yeah.
So they get Isaac Delaney's name, and then then they take off. So that's really all that happens here. Am I missing anything?
Not a lot of huge story beats. Yeah, you get that information. You beat up some demons. It's really just like a breadcrumb on the way to Isaac Delaney. So
There's a cool like elevator sequence. Like I like
oh yeah,
the unique mechanic that they created there. Cool vertical,
I do also love like Standish goes to take the elevator and then he falls down the elevator shaft because
Yes.
when you're a human and you open an elevator door, you're like, there's probably going to be a room there. Like you don't ever think to yourself like, I bet this is empty and I'll fall and die. And so he just opens it and then like steps into it and immediately falls. And Spider-Man Peter has to like jump and save him. And it's a cool sequence where you're like dodging around these like
classic
blocks
Spider-Man sequence.
Classic Spider-Man sequence where you're dodging around this like falling rubble and everything's on fire but then right at the end, Spider-Man webs Standish and he webs the top of the elevator and you just and you kind of like stop and then Spidey's like, "You okay?" And Standish is just like, "Yeah, I'm fine." I was like, "You like
Just another day in Marvel's New York.
just another day in Marvel's New." He just is not phased. Standish is like, "I'm okay. Thanks for catching me. I didn't want to die, so I'm glad about that." But besides that, it's pretty normal.
This would be an amazing
taxes now.
Yeah, this would be an amazing trope in the MCU, is that the superheroes are constantly saving citizens and they're just like very casual brushing it off because they're always being saved, so they're just
like,
not grateful.
I fell off a building last Tuesday and I got caught and everything's fine. Yeah.
See you later, Captain America. All right, but yeah, and then afterwards, Sable, takes him away, and they don't want you to talk to him. So it seems like they're kind of doing Norman's direct bidding. They're trying to keep this whole Devil's Breath concealed for him.
Yeah, can we talk about how Norman like hired an entire PMC just to like, hey, keep me safe, kind of like help me not die and keep my secrets, kind of a thing, like Mr. Moneybags over here.
He hired them. Let's see, what was it? It was as an excuse for something that happened in the city. Was it just the demons coming out?
Well, it was right after the bombing at the Osborn rally.
Yes, it was that.
Yeah.
So he used that as an excuse to hire out these people, but technically they're doing his bidding, so he's really using the taxpayer money for his own purposes. That's corrupt, obviously.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's Norman Osborn.
as we know, the mayor of New York never gets in trouble for anything they do.
No, they're just
Not once
100%.
ever.
I can't name one mayor of New York that's had a downfall.
Well, do you
That's
better.
ever.
I can't
I can't
one
name one mayor.
of
I
New
can't
York.
name one mayor. Period. Of any
one-
state. What are
What
mayors?
about Rudy
I was-
Giuliani?
I was directly referencing Mayor Eric Adams, who
Yeah.
was
Who?
under indictment up
What?
until like a week or two ago. But
I-
never mind, that went right over everybody's heads.
What's a mayor? I don't even.
Yeah.
Nothing. What's the matter with you? All right, never mind. Too topical. That doesn't matter to people. So,
Shan's over here trying to be smart with his jokes to just a bunch of dummies, except for Tucker. Tucker got it. It's important for us to note that Tucker got the joke. Yeah.
It is. I get those jokes and poop jokes. I'm a jack of all trades.
Really, it's the best of both worlds with Tucker. Yeah.
no, that's why we invite him. He only chimes in when he has categorical humor to inject.
Exactly. It's categorical. Yeah.
He's our lowbrow and highbrow humor consultant. That's what he's bringing to the table.
By the
Did I play the
way,
game? No, but I'm here for the jokes.
by the way, Marvel HQ is in New York.
Yes, I was
Yeah.
right. I take it
Oh,
back. I'm a
good.
genius. Yeah.
I did a little bit of fact checking just to
Can I
find out.
can I tell you why I thought that? So as the reason I said that out loud and then immediately was like, I don't know if that's true, is because I played the very first Lego Marvel Superheroes game, and in Lego Marvel Superheroes, Comics headquarters is in that version of New York City, and so I said it out loud, and then I was like, I don't think that's right. Like, the only reason I know this is because of a Lego video game. I don't know if that's real information.
Hey, Lego does their research, man.
Apparently, yeah.
Don't you dare badmouth Star Wars. That's all fact.
It's all accurate.
It's all accurate. Yeah, that's another other guy's reference.
No way the Millennium Falcon just flew away from that explosion.
I call
It's our-
bullshit.
It's our pop culture punching bag for the day, other guys, as we're gonna quote that a million times.
I'm gonna
Yeah, I
beat
feel
it
like
to
we have
death.
like 5. We have like what we do
We got
in
a quota.
the shadows. And heavyweights.
Yeah,
the other
I'll
guys.
try to think of what we do in the shadows quote to weave into the thing today. I'll work on that. Yeah.
I'm surprised how hard it is. Like, there's never been an opportunity to inject Hot Rod, even though that should be my other go-to
Yeah.
for references, but it just doesn't come up. All right. All right, so now you know Delaney's name, so now you have to go find him. So you go off to a Halloween party, and yeah, so you get some fun little Easter eggs here of people wearing costumes of Spider-Man's, B, C, D list enemies. Well, they're pretty much all
His
B
rogues
list.
gallery. Yeah.
Kind of Sinister Six characters
Yeah.
at some point.
Yeah, you see like Mysterio and Vulture and Rhino. I'd say that those are pretty like A tier, maybe B plus tier Spider-Man villains,
Yeah. The Sinister Six isn't exactly 6 people, right? Like, it's kind of like
It
the
rotates.
Avengers, they rotate.
It depends. Yeah. I mean, there's an original Sinister Six, the original members and then it kind of, there's been comics have been happening for, like 80 years or I don't know, however long they've been happening. And so there's been so many different iterations of everything at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, so you end up running into Mr. Negative there. He ends up corrupting Delaney into telling him another name. So this is just like cat and mouse, just chasing people down. So you find out Dr. Morgan Michaels, I believe, who is the doctor that is exclusively privy to the knowledge of what Devil's Breath is for Norman. And then he has this doctor, Isaac, kill himself, which
is like really like whoa for a Spider-Man game. Not what I was expecting to happen.
it really changes the tone.
It's interesting because like this for me was a little bit on par with the bombing. It's just like, oh, Spider-Man, and then it's like, oh, this just got real
Horrifying violence. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this
like
is
way
adult
too
Spider-Man.
way too grounded and real. It's like exactly, the bombings, it's like, oh man, that's too real. And then the guy just caps himself in the head and you're like, whoa, like Mr. Negative, Martin Lee is not messing around. This guy just no care for anyone that stands in between him and what he's trying to do.
Yeah, formulaically, it feels like they made this game for us millennial men who specifically watched the Sam Raimi trilogy, so we didn't need to have the origin story. And then we watched The Dark Knight, so we wanted something dark and gritty. And like we had just been like, our tastes and genres had been blended together over the last 10, 15 years, such that this is the Spider-Man that we get now for our demographic. So, like, they didn't make this for the next generation. They made it for us who are now adults who consumed the kiddie version when we were young.
Yeah, and it's my favorite. I love it. This might be my favorite, and I have to qualify this with a might be, but this might be my favorite interpretation of Peter Parker's Spider-Man. I really, really love Peter, like the world that the Insomniac Games builds here, and it's just fantastic.
Yeah, I thought I was bothered by them changing the mocap character. And then I went back and watched a cutscene with the original, and I was like, I couldn't even look at him. It was too uncanny. It was really off-putting. Yeah.
Well, I had the benefit of I had never played it on PS4. And so because I didn't have a PS4, I was an idiot and I bought an Xbox One. And so when I finally got back into the PlayStation ecosystem, I got a PS5. And so I had this huge backlog of PS4 games. So when I finally got to play Spider-Man, I played it on a PS5. And so I had the new face motion capture model based off of Ben Jordan rather than the John Bubniak, the other guy. And so that's just always been his face in these games for me. So I never got attached to the other one. So I just I'm fine with it. I think it suits the voice acting really, really well. And this face model looks a lot more like Yuri Lowenthal, who does the voice for Spider-Man. And so I think that's the reason they changed it, is to save time in the mocap phase of game development, is so that if their faces were more similar, it could save them a lot of time and money translating their performances onto the digital model. So I love it. I think it looks great.
I think it also just like he has like a warmer countenance, like it's friendlier, like a friendly neighborhood type of face.
Like a friendly neighborhood face.
Yeah. All right. So after you get Morgan Michael's name, you then go to Oscorp, and you climb up the side of that building in another unique mechanic of like stealthing up the side of a building, and I don't know, it's kind of fun, unique one-off thing.
So did any of you guys play Spider-Man for the PS1 or like the N64 or PC back in those days? Nobody?
I think
Lundy?
I did.
Was it
No, I think I did. I don't
first,
remember.
Was it the first movie tie-in game?
No. It was like it was a comic book one where it came out in like early 2000s, maybe late 90s. Anyways, but the reason I bring that up is I loved that game. I didn't have a PS1, but my brother did. But I this is one of the few games I like had on my PC. Like I say my PC, on my parents' computer, and it could barely run it because my parents had a really like base level computer. But I'd play this game at like 4 frames per second. And but I loved this game. And there's one part on like sort of early of the game where you're like climbing up a building and there's spotlights, and you're climbing up and you're trying to avoid the spotlights and get to the top of the building because you've been wrongly accused or like framed for a crime. And so the police are after you and you're trying to run away. And it's just so playing this part of the game, I was like, it just felt hugely nostalgic to me. I remembered that part of the first Spider-Man game that I played on my PC. And I was just like, as I was playing, I was like, this can't not be an Easter egg for that. Like the vibes are so similar with the spotlights and the crawling around, and even like the red laser pointers there in the original game, or in the older game, there were like cops with, pointing snipers at you. And so it was very much like, it felt like that again. I was like, I love this fun little Easter egg moment that reminded me of that older game that I played that I loved so much.
I wouldn't be surprised, because it felt so random. It was fun, but it was random and unique, kind of like the elevator sequence.
Yeah.
But it also reminds me of later in this section that we'll be talking about how you try to stop the subway by whipping to the side. And it's like, well, is this not a reference to the first Sam Raimi?
100%.
100% that's what this is.
Yeah, this game is full of like Easter eggs to all sorts of other Spider-Man, media and things. But like I hadn't played that game that Eric mentioned, but
You should play it. It's fantastic.
one of the what I really appreciated about this part is like, this game. Peter Parker has been Spider-Man for 8 years when this game picks up, and so he's very clearly comfortable with everything. Like he's running along walls. You don't see much of the actual wall crawling that he's known for. And so this felt like a time for it was like, all right, let's just slow this down. He's actually doing crawling that is somewhat spider-like in its movement. And it just felt like a natural kind of, okay, we're going to take a step back. We're going to slow this game down, but we're going to bring Spider-Man to his roots in something that's such a key part of his character that hasn't really been focused on or included to this point.
Yeah, I do love the wall crawling. And as you were saying that, it reminded me of another part of this game that I really like, when he moves like a spider. There's always something really fun and nice, like when you get those spidery influences. And I take a slight step backwards to when you're at the Halloween party. There's this guy dressed up as Rhino that Mr. Negative possesses and makes him attack you. And how Spider-Man defeats him is he like kind of hops up on his back and he like spider crawls around him as he like webs him up. And it's got like fun. He like you guys know what I'm talking about. He crawls around his torso and like as he webs his arms together, and then he jumps and flips him and savagely smashes this guy into the ground. And I was like, that's not a supervillain, Peter. That's a normal guy. Someone go check his pulse. Like,
Steve from chemistry class is now dead.
The thing that I noticed about that part too, like he does a little bit more spidery movements, but like the grabbing the arms and webbing them up to his shoulders is the exact same move he used on Shocker earlier. And and it's like, no, this is just some guy. It's not even a supervillain like Shocker is, which I think goes back to what we had been talking about when in that episode, just, however long ago it was that we talked about that, where Spider-Man just treats him like a toddler. Yeah. And it's like, this is how Spider-Man treats just non-powered people. Like, it's the same move, and Shocker can't defend against it.
Just puts him in a little web straitjacket and says, all right, now here's your nappy and your baba. Now go to sleep.
What am I thinking of? Oh, it was Age of Ultron or something. The Hulk Buster. Go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep.
It's like pound.
All right, so you break into Oscorp, you find out about Devil's Breath. It was supposed to cure disease, but it ends up, killing the immune system. And so it's, as far as, we already would understand, this is probably to cure his son, and I think also his wife.
Yeah, that's the point I was going to make, is playing the second game and seeing just Harry and his medical condition. His medical condition.
There's always a condition.
There's always a condition. Like it's really cool coming back to this game and be like, oh, I bet that's for Harry. Type of thoughts.
Shocked Pikachu.
Shocked Pikachu.
Yeah. I just had to find an excuse to use this. This is my hot chocolate mug that I created. All right. So for people that are watching, I created a mug of the Surprise Pikachu meme. All right.
It's beautiful. It's
I just had to throw that in there for no reason.
Every opportunity. My favorite part about this thing is, and it's not just this, it's a trope that happens all the time in movies and video games and all sorts of media, but Spider-Man goes and he breaks into Norman's office, and then he goes and he looks at the only computer in the room, and there's just like a PowerPoint presentation with all of the relevant information that he needs, just like open on the desktop and ready to like thumb through. And it's hilarious to me every single time that happens. There's no like, where's the file? I have to download it. He literally he doesn't even have to like unlock the computer or turn it on. It's just open. Like, hey, do you want to know all the illegal stuff I'm doing? I made a PowerPoint about it. You can just check it out. Like,
wait, you guys don't keep all your illegal activity on the PowerPoint that's on your home screen always open?
Oh no.
I don't expect anybody to look.
Yeah, why? It's my it's a personal computer.
Probably not even using an incognito tab or anything.
It's just there for everybody.
And passwordless computers, come on now.
Yeah, well, he doesn't type. He doesn't go to. It's just there and like ready to go.
just moves
cracks
the
me up
mouse
every
and-
time.
yeah.
He just moves taps the keyboard, just one arrow key over, arrow key over. Oh, thanks for all this relevant information. I'm just gonna go now.
You don't need password protect your technology if you pay for security to protect your penthouse.
I know,
right?
but how hard is it to password also protect? Like he could have also just done a pat. That's not hard. Like
1, 2, 3, 4 is not that hard to type in. That's better than
Password is
nothing.
password.
Yeah.
any password is better than no password. Come on, Norman.
Password is Green Goblin Rules
Yeah.
69.
GGRULZ. Yeah.
Try big boobs with a Z.
That worked.
And we're in.
All right. So once he figured out that it could kill people, I'm surprised he didn't destroy it, but maybe he's still trying to develop it to save his son. But yeah.
Of course, that's the reason. There's like a chance that it could be modified and refined to treat Harry's disease. And so it's like, even though in its current state, it's a bioweapon, Osborn, Norman is so arrogant that he's just like, well, with my scientific mind and all of my means, of course we can turn this around and make it into something, because I need it for my son. And it doesn't matter if it's dangerous right now. I can fix it because I'm Norman.
I love that, when you get that frame, it's like, okay, Norman has something that could, once it's refined and everything, it could be incredible for the world. Peter points that out where he's like, wow, this could be amazing. It could cure all sorts of diseases. But Norman's only motivation, he doesn't care about the rest of humanity. He's developing it for one specific person, and that's in a way him, because he's just trying to save the people that he loves, that matter to him. He doesn't care about, so he'll spend any amount of money to save one person, but not anybody else. He doesn't care about that.
Oh, he would definitely monetize it afterwards.
Oh, he would.
Yeah.
He'd find a
Gotta get his
reason to care
ROI.
about it, but that's
But
not
he
the
will hurt
motivation.
anybody. Yeah, he would hurt anybody to make it. Any extrajudicial way of skirting the law to create it, it could kill people. But once he gets it, he would definitely monetize it after that.
Yeah. And I think we give Norman a lot of crap, deservedly. He's not a super morally upstanding dude. But there's also part of me that just sees this side of Norman, and you get a little inklings of this later, particularly way later in the game. But Norman's he lost his wife to this illness, and his son is showing very advanced signs of this illness. And so this illness has broken him once, and he has the finances and the means to potentially stop it. And so he's just this freight train of I've got to figure whatever it takes to make this work, because he's, I can't imagine the kind of pain that would come from losing your wife to something and then watching your only child suffer with that same disease. So Norman gets a lot of crap. He deserves a lot of crap, but there's also this human side to him that really appreciate, that I feel makes him a very well-rounded character and not just a guy to hate.
I think it's really easy to make the Joel argument we made.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, it's almost the exact same. It doesn't matter what else is going on. There's this almost parental right to go crazy. Obviously, the setting is a little bit different. It's not a post-apocalyptic world with some 2-bit vet that pulls a scalpel on you.
Yeah.
It's, obviously there's a lot more resources, a lot more stable, not the wild, wild west. So I think, Norman does get a lot of crap there, but the human side, the parent side, I can definitely identify with is you want to do everything to not have to go through that pain again, especially with your child, which I imagine is a whole lot worse than a spouse.
A lot of this actually, so this week I saw something. This was something that I learned about Stan Lee and Marvel. I didn't previously know this, but this shows Insomniac's care towards Marvel properties. Stan Lee had a rule that heroes needed to be, or villains needed to have just a little bit of hero in them. They had to have some sort of heroic nature to them, because that's what made them interesting. And so that's one of the things that you see a lot with a lot of these Marvel villains, is a lot of the times they have motivations that are sympathetic, things that you go, yeah, I totally see why they want to do. Like, I can't agree with their methods, but I agree with the end that they're trying to achieve, and you can see that here with Norman, where he's very clearly a villain. It's not trying to paint him in any kind of gray area, but it does allow you to connect with him a little bit and see that slightly heroic side to him.
Yeah.
Is that why
If you
Marvel
were-
villains are so much more compelling than DC villains?
I mean, I would say with the exception of Batman has some truly spectacular villains, and the rest of DC is fairly lacking. But Marvel has some pretty not uniformly, but I think they have a higher ratio of really great villains
Yeah.
than they do bad ones. DC has some real stinkers. I mean, Marvel does too, just because there's so many villains in each. But yeah, I'd say probably yes. I think that on the whole, Marvel has better villains, with the exception of Batman. I don't know what happened with the Batman corner of DC. It's so much better than the rest of DC. It's just like, it's just streets ahead. You know, they nailed it out of the park.
Yeah, that's it.
It's ahead.
No, I was gonna say, like, if Norman hadn't been putting other people at risk to save his son who didn't have to be put at risk, then he would be kind of heroic, right? Because he would only be risking his own liberty, you know, breaking the law to save his son. But since he's potentially risking everybody else's life creating this thing, and just plowing ahead with it anyway and hurting other people along the way, that's what makes him villainous. People who don't deserve it are getting hurt.
Well, and it's not just the people who are getting hurt. He's all of the other scientists and the other people working on Devil's Breath are going to be just as culpable as Norman if this hits the fan and he gets arrested and stuff. So it's that.
Well,
plus
they chose that still. They're adults.
Yes, and I mean he's not forcing them, I assume, but still, you know, he's enticing them with this project to here's a lot of money to break the law, basically, because I'm sure he has to pay them a lot of money to.
Yeah, but you saw what they were wearing, right? Lab coats, so they were asking for it.
Yeah. If you wear a lab coat in a Spider-Man universe, you're going to be a villain sooner or later. It's just how it ends up. A terrible accident will happen, and then
All right. Well, let's see. So you find out about the Devil's Breath, and what happens after this?
So you go to the
MJ mission, right?
MJ mission at the Central Park Sable Camp. But on the way, as you're swinging there, Otto calls Peter, and he's very excited about expanding the project and about how he says, you know, we can do this and we can do that and we can do this. And he's just very excited. And then Peter says, oh, I've never heard Otto, or I've never heard, you know, Dr. Octavius. I don't know how he refers to him. I've never heard him talk so excitedly about something. I hope he's not too excited. And this is where we get the first little inkling of Peter, looking at Otto and being ooh, maybe he needs to slow his roll a little bit. I don't want him to get too caught up in what he's doing. This is all good stuff, but let's take it slow. It's that first inkling of of seeds of doubt in I hope he's making good choices kind of a thing.
Yeah, his long-term Spidey sense is tingling a little bit.
His long-term Spidey sense. I like it.
Really hoping that Doc Ock doesn't go full manic Kanye.
Bipolar.
I mean,
we hope that out of everybody. Yeah, no one should go full Kanye.
He's
You never go full.
Dr. Octavius he's starting to go a little bit manic here. This is kind of, you know, which is an interesting way to put it, you know, and he has his reasons too. When we find out it's not just because he's insane, but he has some physical limitations that are pushing him and motivating his eagerness to find a solution.
Yeah, we get to that that conversation just after this Sable mission with MJ, and I think I'll save it for then. But I love the conversation they have. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I like the way that they slowly drop breadcrumbs of how his ideology around his project and his mission evolves and escalates to what it becomes, and how he can rationalize hurting Osborn and having that become fused with his Dr. Octopus alter ego. And so even though he's kind of at some point taken control of by, this thing that he's got, because it like short circuits his brain. You could see that like he got there on his own, and then it took control of him. Anyway, all right. So then you swing over to Central Park. You find the Sable military setup, and MJ decides to do another stealth mission because she's really good at them.
Can I just I won't harp on it too much. This is probably my least favorite MJ mission because it's just frustrating enough. Like it's not difficult, but it's just difficult enough that I fail a couple times, and it just like it gets hard. It's the wrong kind of hard. It gets under my skin. But not only that is it's like MJ, a normal reporter, mortal human, is like, I'm going to sneak into this military camp. And not only that is she like gets mad at Peter she gets to the end, someone's pointing a gun at her. So you swing up with Peter and all you see is like, oh, someone's pointing a gun at her. Spider-Man swoops in to save her. And then she gets mad and it's like, yeah, someone was pointing a gun at you in a military camp. Of course I came to save you. I love MJ and I think she's a great character and a great partner for Peter. But just sometimes it's like, what are you doing? Like, you should not be sneaking around. They'll kill you. They will murder you. Like, they have so many guns. Get out of there. Anyways, rant over.
She is a special kind of Delulu, right? This made me not really care for her. And so even though we've made the argument that she is the right dynamic and chemistry and person for Peter Parker, ultimately, her hot-headedness and her blindness to just logic in this situation just like turns me off to her as a person, such that I want to compartmentalize her and look for somebody else for Peter.
Shan's not an MJ fan. Yeah.
Not in this situation.
I mean, I will say that like I do understand her frustration from just in the sense that there was information that she was about to get, and Peter was just like, comes in like a bull in a china shop, and she doesn't get to find out the rest of it, and the reporter side of her is going to be driven crazy by that, because that's her whole profession, is getting information, asking the right questions and getting information, and somebody comes in and ruins that for her. And so it's like, well, like, they could have likely prevented some things that happen had he not, but at the same time, what else is he supposed to do when he, like Eric said, he sees her in the middle of a military camp with a gun pointed at her? What else is he supposed to think? Like, his first thought isn't going to be, oh, I bet this interview is going really well. Like, she's getting everything that she wants.
Yeah, she'll be fine. Yeah, let's let this sit for a minute and see what happens. I'm just going to let it. It'll be okay.
I mean, I understand MJ's frustration here. Like thinking on it, I think a lot more than I originally had. Like I think there's this part of trust that MJ thinks that she has with Peter here that he broke. Like, so MJ's in this situation, like, okay, I have this gun put in my head. I'm in a sticky situation, but I'm going to get the information. Then I'm going to get out of this. I've, done something like this similar before. Peter needs to trust me to do this. And he breaks that trust by coming in and wrecking it. I completely agree. It's like, as an outsider saying somebody point a gun at somebody who you love, yeah, you're going to swing in there and...
Well, and not just like... MJ knows Peter. She knows his compulsive need to save people because it's a compulsive need. It's like he's New York's protector. And Mary Jane is at the very top of his list of people that like he needs to protect. And so the fact that she thought that he would do anything else is just, and I don't know. I don't want to dog on MJ too much because I think that her character is wonderful in this game. I love basically every interaction that her and Peter have.
You don't want to raw dog her?
But whoa, what?
You said you don't want to dog on her too much. I assume that's what you meant.
Ooh, you made that real weird real fast.
I was just clarifying.
Yeah, hot in here? Ooh,
you tell me.
Asking questions.
I'm just asking questions.
I don't even remember what I was talking about. I guess point over. I'm done talking. I don't remember what I was saying.
Have you guys seen Shrinking?
The first season.
Okay. 'Cause I think that's in the first season. Like, Harrison Ford's character keeps saying raw dog. You know, it's like, you guys can't come in and raw dog me in my office. And it's like, you have to stop saying that.
That's not what that means.
I can say what I want. And somebody's like, it means to have unprotected sex. And he's like, I'll stop saying it.
Yeah. I love Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford is fantastic in
what a treasure.
Just the most delightful man ever in all of his grumpiness.
Well, it's great that, like, he never had to be anything he wasn't, right? Like, he's not a great actor, but, like, everybody loves him so much that they just keep writing characters that he can just be himself.
I love it.
And it's the best thing in the world. Like, I just want more of what he is.
Yeah, it's a real good way to get me on board with the project quick. Is like, Harrison Ford's in it. I'm like, oh, I'll check it out. I love Harrison Ford. He's like I love how he's just kind of slowly evolved into like the perfect grumpy old man, because he's grumpy, but he's like good natured and joking about it. He's the perfect grumpy. I want to be Harrison Ford when I'm older. I want to be charmingly grumpy. That's what I want from my life.
That's right. No, it's like Indiana Jones grew up and then just got tired of everybody's shit, you know?
Yep. It's exactly what it is. Harrison Ford is just Indiana Jones in real life.
All right. Well, since all right. So anyway, you find out from Standish about Morgan Michaels, and he gets knocked out, and you get whipped out of there. And MJ's furious that she was mistreated. She's not made of glass, which, okay, whatever. I'm gonna dismiss her for now. Let's move on. I've said my piece.
Also, she says, this is the last thing I'll say about it, is as they're on the phone call, she's swinging away, and she goes, "This is exactly why we broke up." And it was like, ooh, like that's, and Peter had done something that really hurt MJ's feelings. That was like, you didn't trust me in that moment, and that hurt my feelings. And so I think that she said something back to him that was like, this will hurt his feelings. Or maybe she just felt hurt and was saying how she felt in a not very nice way, but like, that's like daggers, man. It's like, this is exactly why we broke up. Because I feel like Peter probably feels that way, but then to have MJ say that to him is like, that's gotta hurt. Poor Petey.
I think
poor MJ. They're just both having a rough time right now.
Yeah. Well, and I think that, you know, this is why we broke up kind of sheds a little bit of light where, at least in my mind, like, it's easy to imagine them having that conversation where she's frustrated, being like, I don't always need to be saved, because, you know, from her view, she feels helpless, you know, like, she's just like, there's nothing that you know, like, whether I put myself in the situation or I didn't, you know, and like, there are a lot of versions of Mary Jane in comics or other media where she is just kind of there to get in trouble. Like, she's not even doing anything wrong, and it's just villains just like, ha, and he's got MJ.
Ha-ha!
And, you know,
now see here.
Yeah. And just like twirling their mustache, you know, and just ha. But like, so I think to give MJ this dynamic of not wanting to be a victim, it is interesting, because it's like there are times where she clearly is, but she doesn't want to be, and that frustrates her. And she's tried to bring that up with Peter. And even in the situations where he's right, it's still hurtful to her, because it's been so many instances in the past. And she's tired of it, and she's frustrated, and she doesn't really know where else to take it out. And so she kind of lashes out at Peter in this moment. But, you know, like, it does give her, you know, a little bit more depth as a character, instead of just like, oh, she's just the stereotypical damsel in distress. It's, I didn't ask for this, and I didn't ask for you to help me. Like, let me struggle on my own. Let me try to figure things out on my own. I don't need to be rescued.
Like a toddler
100%.
having to put on their own shoes.
Yeah, just like that.
Oh my gosh. My own daughter, every single day. I want to do it all myself. Okay. You don't know how, but let's suffer through this, even though we have no time.
Yeah.
Shan and your daughter is basically the same relationship as Mary Jane and Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Just put the shoes on. We have to go. Yeah.
Yeah. It's fiercely independent. All right. So then you head off to Otto's lab. He's, he's still working on his arms and, the mechanical arms. So it's constantly escalating every time you go there. He's created like a neural interface hat thing.
A neural interface hat.
Yes. And and so he can now use it to like juggle 1,000 tennis balls, which like if you can't like mentally juggle, like he's never like
Otto is very smart.
He's never learned the muscle memory to know how to juggle in the first place, I'm guessing. So how does he have the muscle memory in his mind to juggle that many balls?
He knows the theoreticals around juggling 1,000 tennis balls. So
Okay,
maybe-
so he studied it.
Just go. Yeah.
Maybe he did know how to juggle. You don't know his life. Lots of people can juggle.
That's how he put his way through medical school. Is he
Yeah.
just
You don't have to juggle
was a
professionally
circus
to know
clown?
how to. I can juggle. You don't have to juggle professionally to know how to juggle.
Eric, show us
That's
how to
what he was
juggle.
doing before
I'm not
he
good
started
at it, but I know how.
degenerating.
Well, I don't think it's outside the realm of, just like in the suspension of disbelief to say, like, he's been talking the whole time about, making humanity better. Like, they're not tied down by the limitations. And so he's found a way to program the arms to recognize he's just thinking of, hey, juggle all of these balls. And the arms are just like, okay, like,
You got
I
it,
can do
dude.
this.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And so he doesn't need muscle memory because the mechanics of the arms are better than muscles. So they don't need to have been trained to learn how it feels. It just does it.
You got to trust the fake science on this. Lundy knows what he's fake talking about. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
I will say
That's
though, I do
persuasive.
love the first thing when you like there's the arm dangling there, and then as it goes to like toss the first ball, it really quickly like breaks apart and snaps out and quickly becomes something that does not look like a human arm. It like extends and then it snatches it out of the air and then it slowly like slithers back and looks like a normal human arm. And it was such a cool, like immediate, like, ooh, wow, Otto is doing some cool stuff over here with these arms. They're not just like arms. They can do lots of other cool things like extend and stretch and shrink and, grab onto things that fingers might not be able to easily grab onto. And so that was like a fun little like, ooh, that was cool. And then he juggled a million things.
I'm just now realizing that he's probably featured in a lot of online porn with all those.
I mean, obviously everyone is
Tentacles.
because online. Yeah.
Rule 34. Rule 34
That's
of the internet.
that's the one I was reaching for.
Yeah.
Rule 34.
If it
And-
exists.
It was made for Otto. Yeah.
Yeah, just so many limbs, so many options.
Gross. But accurate.
And he doesn't have to have the muscle memory. He could just think it and pleasure any number, up to 8 probably. I don't know. Anyway, so anyway, you find out that he has a muscular degenerative disorder from toxic chemical exposure from when he was young. It doesn't really elaborate on that. I don't know why he was exposing himself to chemicals. Maybe just in like the lab.
Because scientist. Yeah.
And just, oh, that chemical. Oh, it smells so good.
My favorite chemical.
Oh, let me just inhale this directly into my lungs. And so Peter commits to sticking around because he's there for his brain, not his brawn, and it's a really sweet moment. And I don't know, yeah, it's endearing.
They do have a really nice conversation there where, they kind of have this test, the first successful test of Otto's arms here. And then Otto kind of struggles to get the hat off that Shan called it, the Neuralink hat. And because
a sombrero.
The sombrero, the Neuralink sombrero. And then that's when Otto tells Peter about his condition. And he says something to the effect of like, you can go get another job if you want. Like Otto keeps trying to give Peter outs. Like, it's okay if you leave. And Peter keeps being like, no, man, I'm here for it. I believe in what you're doing. I'm sticking with it. And he says the line, like something like, I'm here because of what's up there. Like pointing at Otto's brain, saying like for what's up there, not for anything else. And so very cool. Very nice.
This is a fake out White Fang, right? It's reverse psychology. He wants to see how committed Peter Parker is to him with a fake White Fang.
Yeah.
Get him.
Go on,
No,
get out of
I
here. I
love
don't
you.
love you anymore.
You have a rock hard brain. I'm sticking around. Oh, that's sweet. Here's a hug. We're best friends. All right. Moment over.
BFFs.
Right. Yeah. All right. So after that, you swing off to feast.
Wait, really quick.
What?
There is a slight note when Peter goes and he looks at the notes talking about because Otto is talking about like a cranial implant, not just a link sombrero, like a cranial implant. And then Peter briefly mentions that like, oh, well, you have to be careful with this and that because it can, mess up your brain chemistry and permanently alter your personality if you're not careful. And then Otto's just like, dangers be damned, let's do it. And so as you leave, you're like, ooh, I don't know about what Doc's doing.
I don't know why they threw that in there. It doesn't reference anything.
I mean, it references, it's foreshadows. Yeah.
Really, I don't know.
It's not as cool as a sombrero.
Guessing. Yeah.
One of the other things one of the other things that they have in there is, if you walk into Otto's office, you can see a bunch of his brain scans on the wall. And if you go up and like look at them, Peter kind of remarks, he's like, this is degenerating fast. Like, Otto doesn't have a lot of time. Like this is progressing really, really quickly. And so that kind of helps shed a little bit of light as well on to why he feels such an urgency to get this made, because if he doesn't, he's not going to be able to finish it.
Yeah.
Time's against him. Yeah.
All right. So then you swing off to Feast. You run into Miles along the way, even though you're supposed to see him there. So that's why I think you're trying to urgently push him off. But Miles, he's kind of getting into trouble. He's clearly like emotionally lost right now because of his father. And so he's in some back alley trouble. And you swing in, you help him, and afterwards you teach him how to fight. And he gets to punch you in the face. And it's a really sweet moment. And because he adores Spider-Man.
It's this really cute, adorable moment. And it just like, and I know that the reason that we're having this moment is because Miles is a big player. He's a main character that like he's an up and coming main character in this story and in this universe. And so for story reasons, I know that's why that's happening. But I love to think that like every once in a while, Spider-Man, after doing some good, he'll just like stop and chat with whoever he saved. And they're like, how are you? And he's like, I'm great. What are you up to? Like, it reminds me of that one part in the Amazing Spider-Man 2 movie with Andrew Garfield, where those bullies are like picking on that little kid and they break his science project. And then Spider-Man like comes down and scares the bullies away. And then he like, fixes his little science project with his webbing and then walks the little kid to school. And I was like, that's Spider-Man. He's like, he's not just here to save people. He's like, he lifts up the downtrodden. And I love that because Peter, when he was in high school, was the downtrodden. And so when he sees kids that like that, he's like, well, yeah, I can spare a minute for you. Let me show you how to punch. And I'm going to help you have this moment that you'll remember for the rest of your life. And I'll forget tomorrow because I'm Spider-Man and I do stuff like this all the time, but like, it'll mean everything to you. And so I love that he takes the time to sit with Miles and show him how to punch and give him some pointers and like kind of have this little connection with him. Very cool moment.
Yeah, it's the friendly neighborhood side of Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes him the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, and not just, some rando superhero that saves and bolts.
Yeah. This kind of reminds me of this random moment I had out in Portugal when I was a missionary. I was out in the ghetto, and there was like this group of young juvenile brats, and there was this like trope out there where like they would shout "Owelder" out at people that as they were walking by to taunt us, just "Owelder," just to mock us because we all had the same name, right? And they thought that they could just say that, and I would just walk by and I would just hang my head in shame because it was embarrassing. And as I was walking by, they shouted it at me, all of them. And it was like 10 kids. And I just stopped and I turned to them and I just started talking to them. They were kind of shocked. They're like, I didn't expect this to turn into a conflict.
Now? Yeah.
What do you do now? I'm just a kid. And so, and then like, we ended up just kind of like chatting. And I think they were like, I don't know. I want to say they were like rapping and stuff. And like, and not that I could rap, that's not, but like, I was just kind of like riffing off of them and joking with them. And by the end, we're all just like laughing and having a good time. And it just kind of reminds me of this, where it's like, it's some kind of like, you're just walking by, it's a nothing. And then it turns into like an encounter where it's like, oh, we just had a moment and this is kind of cool. And now we're kind of connected in a small way.
Also, I like how Miles just straight up punches Spider-Man. And then as Peter swings away, he goes, I just punched Spider-Man. Like, it's just like, oh, I just punched Spider-Man. It's so cool. Like,
All right, so then you do a couple, you do some parkour as Miles. You get to see his hacking app, and you do this to get to the feast building faster.
Some stealth that is equally as disengaging as the MJ stealth. I just felt like I didn't want people to think I'm just digging on Aunt Mary Jane. This section's not that fun either. It's not just MJ, it's just the boring human stealth. Anyways, continue.
Eric is sexist and racist.
I'm sexist and racist. You heard it
Notice
here, folks.
how he
Yeah.
doesn't
Take
say
that out
any
of
of this.
context.
He never says any of this about Spider-Man's stealth
Yeah.
missions.
That's true.
Yeah,
That must
nothing
be the
about a
only
white
reason.
male. You've never dogged on a white male.
Uh,
Something
And
there.
his stealth missions.
Yeah.
that's true. I think the only logical conclusion is that I am a rampant sexist and racist person. That's an obvious conclusion. And now that's on the
Step one
internet. That's a
is
soundbite of me saying that on the internet. So that's great. I
Good luck
hope
getting
that
a
we can
job
all
again.
hear the sarcasm in my voice.
Eric, it reminds me of really? You like all music, even songs of hatred by the White Hooded Knights of the Ku Klux Klan?
That's the correct response whenever someone's like, "Yeah, I like all music."
I was also thinking about that just recently because I was watching Oh Brother Where Art Thou, and they were doing that KKK rally, and they're burning the cross, and they're all just like chanting and dancing, and I was like, is this a song of hatred by the Ku Klux Klan? It was
Oh, man.
real. Oh man,
It's a
The
hilarious
Office.
movie.
It's so great. All right. So then you get to feast and you feel out of place. You're emotionally lost right now, but you find that opportunities that's starting to make you feel like maybe there's something here for you. You help somebody with a crossword puzzle and that person appreciates it. Then you see a CRT TV that needs fixing and you help a guy with that. And as soon as it turns on, you see a report about your dad who has passed. Just reporting on his the bombing and stuff, and this jerk, he starts saying that he was an idiot for having been bombed to death, and so you realize, okay, I'm not clicking. I am just as lost as I was before, and you suddenly I could feel the panic, right? Like it's like I'm trapped. I need to get out of here. I need to go hide in a corner.
Yeah.
And that's when Peter shows up.
Yeah, it's fun to see Peter be a hero too, not just Spider-Man, but he comes in and says, "Hey, I see that you've met Miles," and lets the guy know that like that's his dad, and he just comes in. He's like, "Don't you think I love?" He's like, so I'm sorry, I got excited. I'm getting my words are getting ahead of me. He comes in, puts his arm around Miles, and talking to the other person, he says, "Don't you think it's great that Miles is here volunteering, even with everything else that he has going on, like doing a couple of things, telling this guy like, hey." Be nice to this kid, but then also telling Miles like it's important that you're being here. You're doing a good thing. Thank you for being here. And he does it all in one sentence. It's just this nice moment of like he just is the perfect diffuser of this situation where it like could have escalated into something, and then Peter swoops in and then just makes it better. So very nice moment. He thwips it better.
Yeah. Yeah.
An emotional flip.
Emotional thwip.
Yeah. Also, yeah. I don't think anybody these days still has CRT TVs just hanging out. Like that's not really a thing anymore, but
Not unless you're Shan.
I have one. It's within arm's reach. I'm touching it right now.
Tell us all about it. We want to hear all the
Yeah,
details.
Shan is just wanting to throw in his CRT TV plug again.
He's like, how many people raise their hands who has a CRT? Just me. Oh, all right. Like,
No, but mine is a PVM, so it doesn't have a coaxial cable. It has these RGB and and other connections. It's more true color. It does have an S cable connection. So I don't know. It's a beautiful TV. It has perfect color reproduction, and it's my favorite thing ever. It's supposedly the best PVM that was ever made.
that one specifically, not
That
even
one-
just the one that's in Shan's house is the best one in the world.
That one. Yes, that. All right, but yes. So that unnecessary tangent aside, then you drop off Miles with Aunt May and then you head out again.
Yeah, and I really like the interactions between May and Miles as well, because May has been through what Rio is going through, where she lost her spouse to a horrific accident and had a young, like her son, I guess Peter Parker is basically her son. And so she sympathizes with Rio. And so she kind of knows, like, she's like, I've been through this with Peter. I kind of know ways that I can help Miles. And so they have some sweet little interactions as well. And I just love Aunt May in this game. I think that she's fantastic. One of my favorite characters in this game by a mile. I think she's wonderful.
What was the best Aunt May iteration, in your opinion, of all the movies? I mean, it's obviously...
Including this one or just the movies?
Okay, let's just do all of them.
This one, for sure, is my
this is
favorite.
your favorite.
Wow.
Yeah, 100 without
Really?
There's not a close second. Yeah.
I thought it was Tom Holland's Aunt May.
I think she's great.
Well, Marissa
but
Tomei.
I love
Because Marissa Tomei's hot stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I really like her in No Way Home. I think that when she does the with great power comes great responsibility. And I lost my mom around a similar time to when that movie came out. So that moment was really emotional for me. So I think that she's really great. I think she does a great performance, but the Aunt May in this game is like, she's a good blend of what is there in the comics, but then heightened and tweaked to fit within this version of New York and version of Spider-Man. I think she's wonderful.
I prefer the Marissa Tomei version because she was spunky. She was young and hip. I felt like they modernized her in a really fun way. I felt like because like every iteration that we had in the movies was just her getting younger. And
boop, boop, boop. It's going to be 20 in the next one. Yeah.
Let's see. I don't even know the first one's name, but she was just this really
Rosemary
old.
Harris.
Yeah. She was a beautiful old lady. She was very sweet, very warm.
Deliver us from evil.
Well, except
when the Green Goblin is attacking her.
That's right. Yeah.
Finish it.
Scene out of The Exorcist or something. But she is she didn't have a whole lot of like charisma or like anything notable. She was just like
adorable.
She was adorable. Yeah. And then you get what's her name? Sally Fields. Now she is classic. She's
great,
gorgeous.
Too. Yeah.
And I thought that Spider-Man was kind of a movie that was beneath her for, her legendary status as an actress, but she was America's mom, and I felt like she was, that warmth was captured on screen again as Aunt May. But she didn't really get to live that out in on screen that well.
Not a bunch, yeah. But I will say that the Amazing Spider-Man series has my favorite Uncle Ben. I think Martin Sheen is fantastic. I thought he was great as Uncle Ben. Martin Sheen? Martin?
Yeah, Martin
I might be wrong about that.
Yeah.
Martin Sheen. Okay.
Yeah. Charlie Sheen's the other one.
Charlie Sheen is the other one. That's right. He's the
Charlie
2.5 Men
Sheen
guy that went crazy. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. How did I never connect that? Of course he is. They look exactly the same.
And Emilio
I think
Estevez
his brother is
one.
Emilio Estevez, yes, his brother.
Oh man, you guys are blowing my mind. How did I never I gotta go sit and think about this.
All right, well, okay. We went off on too much of a tangent, but for me, Marissa Tomei, for all of you, it's this one. Yeah. She just doesn't have enough about her in this game that makes her better than the Marissa Tomei version.
Whoa. Don't you gotta talk my anime. Yeah.
If I had more and it proved to me that she was better, but there hasn't been enough yet to prove to me she's better.
All right. I'm going to change your mind by the end of this series, but
I mean, to me, I think my only defense of Aunt May in this game is that she's literally running an entire homeless shelter by herself and still making time for Peter.
Okay.
And she's the best. I just love her. She's fantastic. And every interaction you have with her is so gentle and so caring. She just is like this ultimate matriarch that just like everything in her sphere, she just like wraps it up in a big motherly hug and is like, I'm going to take care of all of you.
Yeah, she's just a mother hen gathering all her little chicks.
It's exactly what it is.
I mean, anybody else would like
a coodle-doo.
A coodle-doodle-doo.
Chat, chat, chat.
Have any of you ever seen a chicken?
I mean, like, if any of us, if we put ourselves in Aunt May's shoes, or any other character in this game, like put them in Aunt May's position where their boss goes AWOL and then turns out that they're a terrorist and you're just trying to like run the entire business by yourself, like anybody else would be totally defensible for them to be completely stressed out and not have time for anybody else. Just like, look, I've got my own problems. Like, just really be tense and short with everybody. And you never get that from Aunt May, even though she has every reason to be.
That's right. That is rare.
She's wonderful.
Infinite
and my
patience.
favorite. Yeah.
Well, I think it correlates so well with Peter Parker's character as well, like who he is. Like Aunt May raised him, so she's passing along a lot of those same traits to Peter Parker, which makes him who he is, which makes Spider-Man who he is.
All right. So you leave Feast, and Sable is starting to escort Dr. Michaels away from the Bowery, and the demons and Martin Lee and the armored truck from Tombstone come down the street. This kind of reminds me of the Dark Knight, with that giant armored truck barreling down LaSalle in Chicago. And you get another fantastic action sequence. These are all very well choreographed.
They're fantastic. I love this one. You're like on top of a car or like this huge armored vehicle, and so you're fighting, but it's big enough that it's like a platform that you're fighting bad guys, and there's just like dozens of them that just somehow keep crawling up out of this car, and you just keep punching them. And I love how they modified the combat animations. So normally when you like punch a guy, they just sort of fall over, but in this one, when you deplete a bad guy's health, instead of punching them, you'll like shoot them with the web and then shoot it onto a building, and then they just like like I'm gone. And I thought that was such a funny visual, where you're just up on this car beating up all these guys and just webbing them to buildings as you go by. And I just got this image in my brain of like the police officers who have to clean up after Spider-Man, just going down the street, be like, there's one, and another block down, like, oh, there's one, we got to cut him down, put him in handcuffs, and there's another one. Like just all of these, just for like 20 blocks, just criminals webbed to the sides of buildings, and cracks me up.
Yeah, that would be like, weren't they going to make a show about like the cleanup crew for the MCU? In that, yeah.
So they had one in development for a little while, Damage Control, because that's an organization in the comics, and they kind of hint at it a little bit in the MCU. That's how they spin off Vulture and make him evil.
Yeah.
But they were developing for a little while. Didn't end up getting greenlit, but they were going to do a Damage Control series, like kind of just a sitcom for ABC.
Oh man, I'd watch that. That sounds hilarious.
Like I think it would have been amazing, and I'm still bummed that they never went through with it.
Yeah, Marvel needs something that's tonally different from like the standard superhero fare, because that's fun, but it's like the MCU. I feel like if they did that right, that could have done really well.
I imagine maybe the budget wasn't commensurate to the numbers they expected, because like you imagine every other scene has to be a lot of damage that they're
no they
up
can
against.
show the damage off screen, and then these guys just come in later to clean it up. That's the best part of it. You don't ever have to show the damage. They're the cleanup. They come after everything's wrecked.
Well, no, you don't have to show the damage being done, but you have to like still like wreck a bunch of like scenes for them to.
Computers, it'll be fine. Yeah.
All right, whatever.
I don't know. Just giving Shan a hard time.
Yeah, you're right. I'm an idiot. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So you try to save Dr. Michaels, and you jump on the truck, and Mr. Negative, he's like, I've been waiting for you, and he tries to lure you to the negative side, right? And so you go into this other world, the negative realm. I don't know what it's called.
Negative realm, something, maybe negative zone, negative realm, something like that. Sounds right to me.
Wasn't the negative zone like? Isn't that
Is
something
that
else?
Fantastic Four?
Yeah, like I think that's in the Civil War comics. Isn't that what Reed Richards builds as like the holding place for all of them?
Yeah.
I want to say it's the negative zone.
That sounds right.
I haven't read Civil War in a minute, but yeah, so maybe not the negative zone, into the negative area.
Yeah.
The negative facility.
All right, so he wants to show you he wants to show you a perspective of the bombing at Osborn's rally, and he's trying to persuade you to hate Osborn. So what's his reasoning here?
Well, one of the things that he says after you've kind of been in there a minute in this negative area, is he's talking about, he's like, sacrifice this one person. Hang on, what does it say? One life for a city of souls. And I was like, if you're trying to get Spider-Man on your side, that's not a bad argument. Like, one life for a city of souls. Sacrifice this one person so that all of these others won't be hurt by him anymore. And it's like, and it so clearly shows that, like, this is Lee's point of view. This is what he believes. This is how he feels. He says Norman is a plague. Sacrifice this one life so that all of these people can be saved from Norman.
Yeah, he tries to show you a distorted perspective of like the bombing, such that it, or at least like try to twist facts so that it shows Norman exclusively as being a villain, and so that Spider-Man would be, angry enough against Osborn to turn against him. But when he rejects that, he decides to start throwing like the supposed like dead souls of the bombing or whatever. I don't know what this is, but like an onslaught of people to attack you, to try to like shame you and make you feel gross enough that you would want to convert to his side. So he starts with lies, and then he turns to just like this fear mongering and other stuff to try to persuade you to his side, because he really wants you to be his powerful ally to take down Osborn, because he needs your power.
Yeah, like it shows this like way that, when he's possessing people, when he's controlling their minds, like this probably happens to everyone else. And right as soon as Spider-Man gets in there, he's just like, put on the mask. And I'm sure that for a lot of normal people who are not Spider-Man, they get into this super creepy, scary realm, and someone's like, put on the mask, and they're like, oh my gosh, yes, anything to make this go away. And they, and that's how he gets them. Because in this shadowy, this negative realm, they have to put on the mask, I'm assuming is how he gets control of them. And so Peter is obviously harder to break, and so he has to break him down and tries to get him to, but then, Peter punches his way out, as he does with many things.
Yeah. And do we know why Martin? No, I think they're still concealing why Martin is against Osborn, and we'll have that revealed later.
Yeah, they haven't like explicitly told. I think they've been dropping breadcrumbs, but
yeah. And let's see. And did he explain that? Like, does Spider-Man know at this point that the bombing was caused by Mr. Lee, or by Martin Lee? So he already knows. So then, like, why would... I'm trying to figure out, like, how Spider-Man would be like, this is Osborn's fault, even though I know that you're the one that bombed us, or bombed the people. I don't know. The logic there was a little lost on me.
I think that, again, Lee is used to taking over weaker minds and people who aren't as accustomed to like fear and danger. So he's probably like, his arguments don't always have to be very strong. But with Peter, it's like he flies in the face of death and danger all the time. And so he uses this argument that maybe isn't super sound, and Peter's like, no, that's not true. Like, and he fights through it.
Yeah, and he wanted Spider-Man to show up and save the day at the bombing so that I'm guessing he could capture him at that moment, but obviously he never showed up because he was knocked unconscious because he was there as Peter Parker.
Yeah, and he does use that in this moment where he's like, I waited for you to show up at the Oscorp bombing and you weren't there. Where were you? All of those people got hurt, trying to like shame him into it almost like. And then Peter comes back with, I can't save everyone, which is like... probably the hardest thing for Peter to say out loud is, I can't save everyone.
I think it shows a lot of I think it shows a lot of maturity as him as Spider-Man, like Lundy alluded to before. It's like, this is year 8 of him being Spider-Man. Like, that's an important lesson he had to learn really early on.
And I love Yuri Lowenthal's delivery of that line, He's can't fantastic. Save everyone. Like, you can hear that just admitting that, like, breaks him a little bit. Like, he really struggles with that, and he's heartbroken. But he's matured enough to know that, okay, like, I can't save everyone, but like, he's not numb to that fact. It hurts to admit, and it hurts to acknowledge, but he's aware and he's acknowledging his own shortcomings.
Yeah, that also feels like something that, you know, core lessons that Peter Parker had to learn in movies that we watched, where like the whole lesson of the movie was, you know, the first one's like, with great power comes great responsibility. Maybe another one is you can't save everybody or something like that. Some of these core lessons of like what he had to learn to become the Spider-Man that he is now just something that he already intrinsically understands by the time we get to this game, as if he's already greatly matured as Spider-Man through things that we haven't seen yet. And I really appreciate the things that they picked and chose to represent who he is now. All right. So you get out of the negative zone, you stop this, but they take off with Devil's Breath, and you save Dr. Michaels. And then the Sable group shows up, and they protect, you know, Dr. Michaels. They don't want you finding out anything more, right? Yeah, nothing. Nobody. I think that's all right.
I do want to say one little thing about just kind of the end of like this set piece is like Sable's, you know, they show up after Spider-Man has saved Dr. Michaels, and they're getting all mad, and they're like, "This is all your fault." And it's like, well, actually, it's
Where were you guys?
well, like it's always, you know, I usually try to understand the perspective of everybody, and this is one area where I'm just like, Sable, like, what are you talking about? Like, where were you? And like, how would this have gone any better if Spider-Man hadn't shown up? Like, this would have been so much worse because they would have gotten Devil's Breath anyway, and Dr. Michaels would be dead, and a lot of other people probably. Like, there's no way that Spider-Man made this worse.
Yeah, they like at the beginning of this mission, they go to like get Dr. Michaels into a car, and then the moment they like get him near the car, this huge armored vehicle comes barreling out from behind somewhere, and they capture Dr. Michaels immediately. Before Spider-Man even has a chance to step in. And so they're like, "This is your fault." It's like, "Excuse me? Like, you messed up so quickly that I didn't even have a chance to start helping. You had already messed up before I got here, and I was waiting with you, like, for this to start." So Sable really screwed the pooch on this one, and Spidey had nothing to do with their screwing of the pooch.
Dunder Mifflin is a part of Sable.
Saber.
Sable. Are you sure it's Sable?
Sable. Yeah. I don't have a good joke for that. I wasn't quick enough on my feet. Yeah.
Mine was pretty rough, but it had to be said for some reason. All right, so now they have Devil's Breath, and you end up as MJ again. So much MJ, it's getting exhausting. You end up at Grand Central Terminal, which is a fantastic place. I had a hamburger there once. Beautiful architecture.
What was on the burger? Tell us about it.
It was I don't remember the place. I think we started getting them in. This is all irrelevant. It doesn't matter. It's delicious.
I want to know about the burger, Shan.
Yeah, was it a little local?
You can't just tell me you had a delicious burger and then not tell me every detail about it.
You know what was actually special about Grand Central Terminal to me the one time I've been there is that was the day that they released hazelnut M&Ms, and that was where they decided to have like their unveiling of it. And so I got to try hazelnut M&Ms at the location where they were unveiling it at GCT. So that's why this place was. I don't know why I brought up the hamburger thing. The M&M thing was far more special.
Cheeseburger in one hand, handful of M&Ms in the other hand. It's a good day. Yeah.
We didn't even go anywhere. We just like walked around and like ate the food inside GCT. It's a beautiful place.
I feel like you're contractually obligated in every Spider-Man project where you have to have GCT featured at some point or another.
Yeah. All right. So I thought this was funny when you get into GCT and you look around at all the Oscorp stuff that's on display. Although in my universe it was M&M's, here it's Oscorp. Yeah. So you find the microbial dispenser, whatever thing that was conveniently made for like cleaning up the atmosphere. I don't know, something like that. And
Clean up the atmosphere. I suppose it could also be used to disperse a bioweapon, but really it's just for cleaning up the atmosphere.
yeah.
Now that
Stuff
you
can
mention
be-
it, it probably could be used for that. Yeah.
Stuff can be two things.
Yeah.
Good thing that they built a bomb into it.
Yeah. Good thing.
All right, so Martin shows up. He says, "Don't make a fuss," and then you're like, "Hey, I'm gonna make a fuss," and so they smack down a cop right in front of
Hey,
you
I'm gonna make a fuss.
immediately because she doesn't listen to no man, and yeah, and so they go into lockdown and they shove Devil's Breath into that machine, and then they just like so they sit down all the civilians around, like directly around this thing. What I thought was funny is like when they come out of the cutscene, all of the NPCs have the same idle animation, and they're all just like hunched over, and they're all just like and they're all just like going in this like 5-second loop, all in perfect synchronization.
Oh man, I didn't.
It's not
that.
even
That's
it's not even offset at all. And there's like 15 of them. It's so
Fantastic.
funny.
I love when every once in a while when you're playing a game and the curtain gets pulled back just a little bit and you're like, oh, I see what you did there. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I will
all right.
say, I will say I've been talking a lot of crap on MJ. I actually sort of like this MJ sneaky mission because I feel like it serves a greater story purpose than most of her other missions. It shows like a bond, the kind of bond that MJ is looking for from Peter. It shows the beginning of that bond because there's a part where they kind of cooperate and team up. It's like, hey, we have to defuse, take out these guys and defuse this bomb. And you have to get over to this tablet to turn off the drones so that Spider-Man can web all the bad guys up and stuff. And so you have this little like moment where you're playing as MJ, you got to get the tablet and then you're like tagging enemies for Spider-Man to pick off, and he'll like swoop down and grab them and then like web them to the ceiling, which is never not hilarious, endlessly entertaining. I love the animation where like Spider-Man will web the guy's gun and then pull it up so fast that it hits them in the face and knocks them out. And then before they have a chance to fall all the way to the ground, Spider-Man webs them and pulls them up to the ceiling too. And so there's these fun little like, it's fun to sneak around as MJ and like be Spider-Man's little like helper on the ground where you're taking out the drones and you're pointing out bad guys and he webs them up. And so I actually kind of like this MJ mission. So for those of you who say, I just hate MJ, it's not true. This was a fun mission.
Because you're helping Spider-Man.
Because you're helping Spider-Man. No, because you get to, because you're team, it's because it's teamwork. There's a synergy between MJ and Peter. And it's because there's this like divide between them. And then this is the mission where they start to come back together and MJ gets to be that more of that partner that she wants to be with Peter. And so that's satisfying. And it's also funny to watch Spider-Man get guys.
I'm Eric. I am a misogynistic a-hole.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Bring it
only
on.
like MJ missions where I'm serving the Master Overlord white man Spider-Man.
What's on Parks and Rec when April is
We
like
must
making
walk
jokes?
behind the man.
We must always walk behind the
Walk
man. I
behind
think
Because they are our masters.
yeah.
All right. Yeah, so yeah, I do like being from her perspective and just watching Spider-Man just like come in through the vent and just like crawl around and just like be all spider-like. That's fun.
And you will note, like, if you look up at the ceiling as MJ, like, if you tag someone over here for Spider-Man to come get, and then quickly, like, tag another person and then look up, you can see his character model, like, whoop, just, like, quickly snap between locations because, you're making him do impossible things. But
That's hilarious.
That's a fun little dev moment that it's hard to do, but if you do it just right, you can see him kind of, like, quickly from one spot to another.
Yeah. All right, so you try to get MJ out of GCT while Devil's Breath is about to go off, and she's like, no, we have to save everyone else. I was kind of curious about this moment. Yes, obviously he would try to save MJ, but would he not try to save everybody? Like, he's not even considering it, right? He's not like, let me see if I can, whip this Devil's Breath out into the air and then explode it like I do with all those other side missions. He's like, I'm just gonna save you, and if they die, they die.
Well, it's a main mission bomb, Shan. You can only do that with side mission bombs. So,
Well,
This didn't feel like Spider-Man's character for me.
I read it as like obviously he's not going to leave those people. I think that he was he had his MJ blinders on where he's like, let's get you safe and then I'll come back and help everyone else.
No,
but
they were
MJ
going
was
to
like,
die.
MJ was like, no, I want to help, kind of a thing. So that's what I got out of that situation, is that he's not just going to leave a bunch of people in there.
I think that he figured he had time because they were waiting for Norman Osborn to show up before they were going to do anything, because they wanted Norman Osborn to be ground zero for the Devil's Breath plague. And so they had everything there, and holding the hostages as a means to attract Norman Osborn. And so my read on it was similar to Eric's, where he's like, hey, let's get you out and then I can go defuse the bomb. And she's like, no, I will defuse it. And and then she does.
So okay, this is another thing that I thought was odd, is that Martin gets a hold of Osborn and says, hey, I want you here. I need to, come along.
I need you. Oh baby, oh baby.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
And then immediately after this, MJ says, hey, I'm a reporter. I can get direct access to Osborn. Didn't he just do that?
I didn't even think about. You're right. He just called him on the phone. He talked to him, and MJ's like, "Hey, I can talk directly to Norman Osborn.
I can make sure he comes here."
Correct me if I'm wrong, but she doesn't say that to Lee. He's gone, so she's saying it to a henchman.
But the henchman radios Lee, and he's like, "Okay, I got it. I'll bring her."
He might be
I rewatched the cutscene right before this.
Huh. I wonder if they just didn't. Maybe Lee is like, no, I don't know how to rationalize my way around that. I don't know what's going on there. That's weird.
Maybe just the little mental thing to enter in there to make it, the mental gymnastics to make it make sense is that Lee is just like, well, now there's extra incentive now that there's somebody with a personal connection to Norman Osborn.
Oh, she can ensure that he shows up. I wasn't so sure he was going to show up, but now he will show up.
Yeah, he did. This redhead
because of this reporter.
Will, so
yeah,
something.
All
like
right,
that.
Sure.
I don't know.
Also, isn't she at the bottom of the food chain at the Daily Bugle?
But Lee doesn't know that.
She's the one that's constantly in trouble with the legal team.
No,
because they're like, just follow the code of ethics, just once, please, just one time, be cool.
I also love that the Devil's Breath is right in the middle of all of the civilians, as if, and then they're kind of distracted at different points. It's are they not worried about the civilians just reaching up and disarming it or running off with it?
Because that's exactly what MJ does.
Exactly. It's that was a little too easy for her. It's just right there where all the people are.
The demons are a new organization. And
they're figuring it out.
This is their first big terrorist attack. They just had the one bombing with the Osborn, and
she just picks it up. She just picks it up and starts disarming it. It's is nobody watching her?
Well, by this point, Spider-Man has webbed up most of the baddies in the room. So maybe there's just not enough people to watch it, or they're all stuck to the ceiling.
All right. Okay.
I don't know. Maybe I wasn't there. I mean, I kind of was because I was playing the game, but
I don't think this is while he's there's still half of them are there. But okay, maybe he swept up the ones that were watching.
They can't see very well out of the masks. They have really terrible peripheral vision, and so
the holes are just a little bit off,
just a little tiny.
You got the ones with line of sight.
Yeah.
All right. So after all of this hullabaloo and disarming the bomb, you get to fight Mr. Negative on the Metro. It's a pretty cool fight.
It's a really cool fight.
Yeah, I got thrashed because it's I knew exactly what I was supposed to do, and I kept doing the opposite. It gives you a generous window to push the right button. And I was just I was just off. I was distracted or something. I was pushing the wrong thing, and I got hit every time.
Well, it's one of those things where it's there's a rhythm to it, and it's incoming. There's 5 hits that kind of da 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 da.
Yeah, I was.
And if you miss your rhythm on the first one, it just messes up the rest of it.
That's what it was.
Yeah. So you got to be on your, because I mean, if you, because I got hit by the first few attacks, and then once you get your, and then you don't get hit at all. You just like, once you find the rhythm, it's like, but it's a super cool boss fight. I love because you're in this really confined space. The rest of the game, you're in this big, huge open Manhattan. You get to swing around, lots of room. Spider-Man's moveset and his abilities are really catered to big open spaces. And so the fact that they shove you in this little tiny subway with Lee and you have to battle him in there, it just makes everything feel really claustrophobic and personal. And it's an interesting boss fight. It's a cool spectacle.
Yeah, they restrict your horizontal and vertical movement, so it really forces you to try something completely different.
Yeah, really, you have no movement. It's like dodge this way, dodge that way, and then punch. Like, it's mechanically not a very interesting boss fight, but because it's so visually interesting and thematically interesting, it's still an engaging boss fight.
Plus, like, you are on the metro and you're having like everything zip past you as you're playing the sequence, so it adds a lot of energy and movement to the sequence, which, so just like as far as that goes, it gets your heart racing, gets your adrenaline going, because it's just this fantastic action sequence. So it lends really well to the pacing of directly after you take him down, having to go directly into that sequence of whipping to save this metro, because it's just nonstop chaos.
I love that when he's doing that, it immediately evokes, the Spider-Man 2 scene. And so he like grabs and he's like trying to pull, and then the webs all break. And I love the addition of the line just where he's like, "Oh man, that totally worked last time." Like,
oh right, he does say that.
It's so good. It's so clever. And so I just, that's one of my favorite little moments in the game, is like a very obvious Easter egg, and then them like tipping their cap, because like I'm sure that a lot of people were like, "Hey, I wonder if they did that on purpose," and then that line of dialogue is like, "Yes, we did."
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, he's like an amalgamation of all the other Spider-Man characters, and he has lived a little bit of each of their histories. I'm guessing that's what they're, making reference to.
Canon events, to
Yeah.
quote the Spider-Verse movies. They're all canon events.
There you
Well,
go.
and I like how Peter's next go-to is right after he doesn't stop the subway train with the Spider-Man 2 methods. That didn't work that time. And then he calls Yuri from a subway, which has anyone ever... That doesn't work, right? But anyways, he calls Yuri from a subway and he's like, "Hey, Yuri, is the streets of blah, blah, blah and blah, blah, blah still under construction?" I was like, "Dude, you are underground. How do you know where you are right now?" But then Yuri's like, "Yeah, they still are." And so he like webs the rails and pulls them up. And then the train comes up through the ground and smashes. And I was just like, well, I mean, he stopped the train, but also he like ruined the ground underneath the subway and the ground. He just like, how long is it going to take for them to... New York operates on subway travel. Like that really, there's a lot of people not getting to work tomorrow.
That was a new line that hadn't been finished, right?
I don't know, maybe.
Regardless.
No, it was on construction up above. Never mind.
Yeah. Regardless, it's still, millions of dollars in property damage that tax money is going to have to go to.
It's like the most expensive way he could have stopped that train. I mean, very cool. Like it's a fun little set piece, but it's funny when you like take even just a minute to like take a step back and think about the damages caused and like the ramifications of all that. Like the earlier mission where there's the helicopter with the wrecking ball and it's just like smashing into buildings and you're like $100,000, $200,000, $100,000, like it just smashes into something. It's like, yeah.
That's what insurance is for. New York is nearly
Insurance rates are crazy.
uninsurable.
The premiums are just up the wazoo.
Yeah.
All right. Or is it premia if it's plural?
Yeah, it's probably premia. It's
definitely
it's just
premia.
like aquarias.
Yeah.
Aquarium.
Aquarium.
Yeah.
Media is technically plural. The singular
there you
media
go.
is medium.
Yeah.
I remember
That's
learning
right.
that in college, and it made me uncomfortable.
Don't like that.
I'm uncomfortable just sitting here. thinking
There's
about that.
there's this one line in Gilmore Girls where they're talking about the plural of cul-de-sac and it's cols de sac, And it gives me that kind of energy where it's like, I hate that. That shouldn't, it's cul-de-sacs. Why would it be cul-de-sac? That's stupid. Like,
Well,
French rules are dumb.
Sounds like
yeah, well, it's a French. I mean, cul-de-sac is French. So it makes sense in French, but in English, we can call them cul-de-sacs. Like,
but
because
in
English.
French, okay, I don't know French pronunciation, but I think it would still be a silent. I think it would still be a silent S in French. So even if it's plural, you wouldn't say the S like that. So it'd just be cul-de-sac still. I never really understood French pronunciation. It's just like you just randomly omit sounds whenever you feel like it.
50%
It's
of
very
the,
hard accent. Yeah.
50% of the letters in French are silent at any given time, and you just kind of have to guess at which ones they are.
But which ones? I'm not going to tell you. Ha ha ha! You think English is hard? No, English is harder. English is harder than basically any language. I don't know if that's true or not. I've just heard lots of people say English is really hard.
It's one of the hardest.
Yeah.
But
It's because we have so many exceptions to all of our rules. It's like, here are the rules, and now throw those out half the time.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, you ask Lee why he was doing all of this. He says to pay off an old debt, so that's an foreshadowing for later. After this battle, he's taken to the raft, and Sable gets a hold of Devil's Breath, and that's the end of that for now. You then text MJ and say that it's over, and she thinks it's about the relationship because that's where her mind is at. And he's like, no, it's about Lee. I beat him. And she's like, oh, okay. Well, it's like, well, do you want the relationship to be over? And she's like, no, but maybe it should be. And so, he's spiraling, he's freaking out. So now we have this whole arc of like, I wanted to be partners, you don't trust me, and you just proved to me that this isn't going to work. And so if I can't have what I want in this relationship, then we need to put the brakes on it.
Yeah. I think that their little text conversation is adorable because they both are just like, it's like in a new relationship, which it's not really a new relationship for them, but they're trying to forge like a new version of a relationship. And so there's all of this like tiptoeing and where you're like, I don't want to say the wrong thing, or like, I don't want to like, you're just trying really hard to like, and it also is coupled with these really adorable like Spider-Man like swings, and then he's like just standing completely sideways on a wall while he texts, and then he's like hanging upside down from something and he's typing on his phone, and it's just this combination of like Peter doing something very supernatural and very natural at the same time, and it's just an adorable little conversation that they have.
And it's so relatable, like, for me, and I've brought this up before, like their dynamic is relatable for me because, I'm a single dude, and, just like him when he's like, do you want it to be over? And after he had sent, he's like, please don't say yes, please don't say yes, please don't say yes, please don't say yes. And, then when she responds and says no, he's like, oh, thank goodness, we're okay. And then she's like, but maybe it should be. And he's like, not okay. Like, and just the roller coaster of emotions from every single text when you're like trying to make something work, like that's something that I, I have a date like at the end of this week, and like every text, it's like, okay, like, let's set this up. Like, I don't want to screw it up, and this is partially why I'm still single, in my mid 30s, is because I overthink everything. And it's like, this is a first date, and it's like, I have to make sure I like word this exactly right so it doesn't scare her away. And so I relate to just this whole aspect of Peter Parker Spider-Man, like trying to woo Mary Jane, and like he's just trying to maintain all of the ground that he just gained and is afraid he just lost. And yeah, I just love it. I think that the writing is phenomenal.
Yeah, the frustrating and real thing here is that the woman is always in control of whatever developing relationship you have. So you just kind of have to be terrified all the time that you will do something wrong and she'll just call it off. Yeah, I remember being in those shoes.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely how it feels for us. And it's like, I wonder what it feels like from the other side, if girls, women are sitting there like, oh, I got to say and I'm sure there's a little bit of that too, but I specifically remember feeling like every single text was like the weight of the world was hanging in the balance, and I was like, I can't mess this up.
Well, it depends on like, who's the reacher, and for all of us, we were the reachers, so they were the settlers.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, so that sums up the story that we're going to cover. Is there any anything you want to dig into about this section? Anything interesting you wanted to bring up?
I'm feeling pretty happy. Got to talk about all the things I want to talk about. I love me some Spider-Man. Got to gush on how great Aunt May is. It's a good episode for me.
This is hands down the most efficient I think we've ever been on any episode.
Yeah, we got through like twice as much as we normally do. It still took us almost 2 hours, but we were a little more on task today.
Yeah, I was trying to force it.
This was good. I liked this flow. This is how it should go. It was good. I liked it.
I do have one thing that I keep forgetting to bring up every time we talk about this, but just one other aspect of this game that I really love and appreciate, and that is the score. I love the music score in this game. And just the way that it's dynamic, where it's completely silent, and then the second you step off a building and start swinging, it just swells, and it just gets so epic, and is just so the composer is John Paisano, who also composed the Daredevil TV show, for Netflix.
Chef's kiss.
He did that, and I believe, let me double check this actually really quick, because I'm fairly confident that I think he also did the music for Invincible.
Ooh, I started watching season 3 of Invincible today. That's a freaking awesome show.
It's phenomenal. So he did do Invincible as well.
He's one of my new favorite composers officially.
Yeah. Daredevil, the Spider-Man games, and Invincible, he just really nails a good superhero theme. It's just perfect.
Lundy and I were talking about this earlier today. We were texting back and forth. He sent me a new trailer for the Daredevil show, which by the time this airs will have already come out. But and I think I said the text something to the effect of that the Daredevil theme song for the Netflix series and now the Disney Plus series is probably one of the best pieces of TV music ever. I love it. It's so good. And the Spider-Man music, the theme for this, I love how it's got a recognizable theme, and you get little light motifs of that here and there. When Peter swoops down and he saves Miles, and as he's swinging away, they do that little kind of a light version of the Spider-Man theme as he's swinging away that kind of hits you right in the heart. And it happens whenever Spider-Man's on screen. It feels like Spider-Man. It feels heroic, but calm and quiet when it needs to, bombastic and energetic when he's doing crazy things. And then it gets you, and it's energetic while you're swinging. They do such a good job of taking that motif of the Spider-Man musical theme and adapting it to different situations. And so yes, agree with Lundy. The soundtrack in this game is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us today. Let's actually try to cut it off before the 2-hour mark.
We did it.
We did it. We did it.
I mean, not a lot less than 2 hours, but we did it.
Well, a lot more covered in under 2 hours. So efficiency. All right. Well, yeah. All right. Well, please come back next week, and I hope that we get people playing along and listening. All right. Yeah. See you later.
Comment,
bye.
Outro. Bleep-a-doof, bleep-a-deep, bloop-a-dee-blow.